I spent over $1,000 taking my first ever woodworking course at the Marc School of Woodworking, and in this video, I'm going to share my entire experience with you guys to let you know whether or not I think it was worth the money. Before we get into the video, I will let you know that I am following an outline because I have a lot of things that I want to cover and I want to try to stay on track. So number one, why I went and the class that I took. So I built this. This is the Coopered whiskey cabinet. This class was taught by Eric Curtis, who is a good friend of mine. And like I said, this is the first ever formal woodworking class that I have ever been to. Everything that I know and everything that I've learned, I learned from either YouTube or I learned from years of trial and error and making mistakes and figuring out the way to do something. This, honestly, is probably my favorite project that I have ever made in woodworking, and I'm going to talk a lot about that throughout this video. Why I decided to take the class? Well, a couple of reasons. I would say within the past 6 months to a year, I've kind of had this reinvigoration for woodworking, where for the longest time, the longer you do the social media thing, you're making these YouTube videos, you're posting to Instagram, you're doing all of this stuff, you start working with sponsors, you start going down this rabbit hole that makes this whole thing really not enjoyable, right? I know everybody watching this thinks that, all these YouTubers are just insanely rich and they have the best life ever, and that's not the case, right? When you start chasing money, it really makes the woodworking it really makes the YouTube and the social media side of things start to become less enjoyable, right? Because you're just turning it into a job. And so I pivoted last year, and I'm sure a lot of you can tell, like I haven't been nearly as active on social media. I haven't been releasing nearly as many videos on YouTube. And it's because I got to this place where I just wasn't enjoying it quite as much, right? And I took on a project, which I did do a YouTube video, and it was released this year, on a box which was being used as an urn for a friend of mine, and it just completely reinvigorated my passion for woodworking. And a lot of times you can get trapped in this funnel of like, what's my next video going to be to earn me the most revenue? And I just don't want to do that anymore, right? I want to be happy again. I want to enjoy the hobby. And now I'm like really, really intrigued by getting better at woodworking. And so that's why I decided to take the class. The other reason I decided to take this particular class is because Eric Curtis, who also has his own YouTube channel, I'll leave a link down in the video description, or I'll throw a QR code up on the screen now. If you're not subscribed, I would certainly suggest subscribing to him because he is one of the most talented woodworkers that I know. But he's also a friend of mine. And so when I saw that he was teaching a class, I thought, why not take this opportunity to not only get to hang out with my friend for a week, but also learn a lot from somebody that I really, really respect in the woodworking community, not just because of social media, just because he is a very talented woodworker. And what I was hoping to gain through this course is doing some things that I've never done before. And this right here is the best example that I can tell you, being the Cooper door, something I've never done before. I'm absolutely obsessed with now, just to be clear. But that was such a great experience. There's plenty of other things which I'll cover in this video, but I just wanted to learn new things. I wanted to try things that I hadn't done before. And one of the other real draws for me with this particular class was it was a lot of hand tool usage. And over the past year and a half, I've really started to dabble a little bit more with hand tools, and I really understand the value. I truly understand the value of them even more, which I'll talk about in this video now that I've taken that course. And so for my experience level going into this class, you guys know, like you've seen the things that I've built. Even though I don't do a lot of build videos, I've actually built quite a few things that never even made it to YouTube. The majority of the things that I've made have never made it to YouTube because my channel's never been a big build channel. And that is kind of by design. It's just not something that I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy filming the process of building and then trying to sort through all of the footage and putting it all together and making it all make sense and doing the voiceovers and all of that. And the other big reason is because I'm only out here, when I have time in my schedule to be out here. Like I am not one of these YouTubers that's like out in the shop every single day figuring out what video I'm releasing this week to do this stuff. Like I have a life. I have other hobbies that I really enjoy as well, particularly golf. But I'm a very green woodworker. right? I know that a lot of you guys watching this may disagree with that, but I have never and will never say that I am some all-knowing person on social media. I'm just somebody on social media that decides to film myself in my garage and share with you the things that I make, the things that I do, how I do certain things. But I have a lot to learn when it comes to woodworking. Item number 2, the concerns that I had prior to going to this course. So there's really one big one that I want to hit on throughout this video, and that is a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that I'm friends with, people that I respect, people that I just have met in passing, have been to the Marc Adams School of Woodworking. I've always heard it's this phenomenal school to go to. But I've also heard some not so great things. And the one thing that I'd heard the most and what I was concerned about the most going into the school was the assembly line feel of the classes at Marc Adams School of Woodworking. And what I mean by that is, conversations that I've had with some people that weren't so happy about their experience there was like, well, you go there and then, hey, we got to do this, and everybody goes and does that thing, and there's always a line waiting because there isn't endless tools for everybody to use. And then it's like, all right, everyone done? Okay, we're moving on to the next thing. And by the end of the week or the end of the 2 days or however long the course is, you have this thing that's put together. Typically, it's not finished. You got to do all that stuff back home. And it wasn't as much of a learning experience for some as they expected. Now, to be fair, I'm not going to answer this question yet. This will all come out during my video. You're not going to make everybody happy. And I know that better than anybody because I am a YouTuber. And it doesn't matter what I do, everybody is never happy. Number 3, first impressions. So I'll kind of talk about my arrival to the school before we go on to the next portion, right? So first impressions, you're kind of driving out. It's out in the country. But it's on like one parcel of land that I believe Marc Adams actually, his house is there and he lives there. And then behind it is just a bunch of different shed buildings that, unfortunately, I don't have a picture of this or else I would show you, that have been added on over the years with some parking areas, a lot of like pavilions, a lot of things that students have made in the past. But when you get there, they have the doors open. I think I arrived at like 7:30 in the morning, maybe 7 o'clock in the morning on the first day. And you walk in, you fill out a document. They hand you a name. They hand you a nameplate that is lasered. This is what I was there. It tells you has your name, where you're from, the class that you're taking, and the dates. Has Marc Adams logo here. And then if you're a veteran, you can actually opt to have the proudly served and the American flag etched in onto your board, which I just thought was really, really cool, right? And so going back to the paper that you fill out, that's actually one of the questions that's on there. Are you a veteran? Would you like to have it displayed on your name tag? I was like, yes. And on the first day they come through, they grab your name tag, they go put it on the burner, and they burn it in. So really, really cool. I thought that was a great experience first off. But when you're filling out that paperwork, one of the things that it asks is what you want to eat every day. So you get lunch served to you every single day, which I don't know if I'm gonna end up talking about this in the video later. The food is fantastic. So like each day there's a couple of different options to choose from. I'll talk about this when I get into each day. But when you get your stuff and you get your name placard, right, you get there early so you have time to go into wherever your classroom is, which they have signs above each one that will show where your classroom is. You walk into the classroom, there's all these workbenches, you pick your workbench, you put your name placard in, and then you start setting up your tools, which I thought was really cool. So that was like my first experience going in. Was you go in, you set your stuff up, you kind of get to pick where you want to work from, and it was just a great experience, like super easy. And yeah, we got to work pretty quick after that. Next, I want to get into what the week actually looked like. So I'm not going to go day by day of what we did. I'm just going to kind of talk to you about what a particular day is. And the only difference is I'll tell you some things that we do on Monday that we didn't do on any other day. So on Monday, we sat down, 8 o'clock. Everybody introduces themselves. We go in the shop and everybody receives like an hour. it was probably about an hour-long safety demonstration from the helper, the actual employee of Marc Adams, whoever the helper designated for that class is, which ours was fantastic. And they'll go through a safety overview of the tools. Now, this is a very basic level safety overview. And at first, I was kind of standing there going, oh gosh, this again. But very quickly, I realized that I was being stupid, because I would argue that the majority of accidents that happen with woodworkers are people that are actually more knowledgeable and comfortable on tools than people who are not. Because that's where the whole idea of becoming complacent comes in, or thinking that you know everything, or doing things in a way that are traditionally not safe, but it's the way that you do it. So at Marc Adams, they have very particular ways they want you to do things, and they're very, very, very serious on safety on the tooling. Now, one thing that I will say is that after about a day or two, I completely understand why they do that, right? Obviously, things have happened in the past, so they have to be overly cautious. But seeing some of the people that were in the class and not looking like they were as comfortable as one might expect for a class of this complexity, I kind of get why, right? Like, I kind of understand why they do it, because there are some people in the classes that are not nearly as comfortable as others. Now, on top of that, you pair a person cutting with about 14 other people standing there staring at them watching. That adds a different layer of complexity to everything. And some people are just not comfortable like that. Like, I make YouTube videos for a living. And the first couple of times that I made a cut and I'm standing there in front of a bunch of people, I'm like, man, I really hope nothing happens. And it's just a different thought process and a different level of stress for some. Now, the way it works on just about every other day, class usually starts at 8 o'clock. All the tools run until, I believe, 6, which they turn off their power supply. And then you cannot run any power tools because that's when the employees will leave. So you have from 8 in the morning until 6. Now, what time you get there doesn't matter. You can get there as early as you want. You can stay there as late as you want, which I think is wild, right? You're just limited on the tooling that you can use for certain times. So if you have a bunch of hand tool work to do, if you wanted to go in at 5 o'clock in the morning, you can absolutely go in at 5 o'clock in the morning, which I thought was crazy. I would show up at 7:30 every day, and I would always be one of the last people to show up in my class of, I believe we had 17 total. So here I was thinking I was getting there early, just to find out that I was behind the power curve. But once 8 o'clock hits, typically everybody comes forward. They're sitting in the chairs around the instructor's workbench. At that time, the instructor will, if it's, we did something the day before, we'll go over whatever we did, find out the progress that everybody was at. If it's something new that we need to work on, the instructor, in this case Eric, will go over what that task is, how we're going to do it, what the purpose of it is, what we're looking for. Then he will demonstrate that. We'll all get up, we'll go into the shop, we'll cut it on whatever tools. We'll talk about how we're going to cut each one of those things. We'll talk about whatever jigs we're going to use. He'll do all of that. And then at that point, it's like, all right, you're off, go do your thing, and then you can go grab your stuff. And that's where the lines form, which, again, I'll probably come back to the whole assembly line feel a little bit later in this video. And then you'll go do that. Typically, you have one task that you're doing until lunchtime. Whatever time your class is supposed to eat lunch, they have somebody come through the building, they'll yell lunchtime, and then everybody from your class puts down their stuff. They go into the dining facility, the cafeteria that they have there, which is open all of the time. They have snacks available, but they will provide you lunch every single day. So during lunch, it's a great opportunity to connect with some of the people in your class. That was one thing that I really enjoyed, is I got to eat with different people like every day, and I got to, talk to a lot of people. Since I am a YouTuber, obviously there were people in my class that watched or have seen my videos, and quite a few of them came up and were nice enough to say like, hey, really excited to have you here. I love your videos, whatever the case is. I thought that was really, really cool. But I was just there as a student like everybody else. So at no point did it ever get to like this weird, like, oh, a YouTuber's here, taking the class of another YouTuber, right? Like, it was never like that. Everybody was super cool. It was a really great time. After lunch, you go back. Sometimes you just continue working on the same thing that you're doing. Other times we'll come up, hey, we got another thing that we need to do. Same exact process. And you basically just do that on rinse and repeat until all of the different tasks are done throughout the week. So there's plenty of time in the shop. There's plenty of opportunities to have interaction with the instructor. So while everybody's doing those tasks, usually the instructor's walking around answering questions, helping people fix mistakes that they made, talking to people and figure out how they can go about correcting a mistake, figuring out, tips and tricks on how you can do some certain things. It was just really, really nice. And I learned a lot of little tidbits because of that interaction. And then the interaction with other students, it was great because while you're working, you can literally talk to the person that you're standing right next to. So if you have a friend that you'd really like to take a class with, it would be an awesome experience because you can be from me to my camera from that person working on the same project, hanging out together, and it would be a really, really cool experience. Now, number 5, were my concerns valid? So now we're going to go back to the assembly line feeling. I totally understand what they're talking about when they said that. And I can see why that would be frustrating to some people. However, there is not a different way to do it. That is exactly how a course like this has to run. There's no way around it. If you want something like that, then you need to take a max class size of 3 and have it be something way more in-depth and way more personal with an instructor to where it's almost like a one-on-one experience, because there's just no other way to do it. You have 17 people that are building the exact same thing, and there's only so many tools to choose from. You have to do it. And since I just mentioned that, I'll talk a little bit about the shop. The shop is outfitted very well. I mean, they have a ridiculous amount of bandsaws. They have jointers, they have planers, they have I think 4 or 5 different table saws. They have everything you would ever need in a workshop. However, if we have one set up for one particular task and another one set up for something else, and another one that's one that can be used for any task, and another one that's being used as a crosscut sled to do another task, and not everybody is at the same point in the project, you can't undo that tool that's already set perfectly, ensuring that everybody's is exactly the same every 5 minutes, because then everybody's wouldn't be exactly the same. So after going through the course and seeing it, I totally understand why it is the way that it is, because there is no other way to do it. So was it frustrating at times to be done with everything else and I need to do the next task? And now I have to wait because I wasn't fast enough to get back to the table saw and there's 7 people in front of me? Yeah, sure, a little bit, because then it kind of just seems like you're standing there off to the side, twiddling your thumbs and waiting to go make your cut. So yes, it is a thing, but I did not look at it as a negative thing, because typically what I would do is after they would go through the brief or whatever it was, or if I knew what the next task was, I'd bring my stuff up with me and I would just make sure that I was the first person to get on the saw or the second person to get on the saw, and then I would go do my work. Or I would just go back and work on what I was already working on. If it wasn't done, wait for the line to die down, then I would go and do that other task. So there are definitely ways around it. You just kind of got to be smart about it. Number 6, what surprised me about the course? 1, the school. The school really surprised me. I mean, it was fantastic. It's much bigger than I thought it was. The amount of tooling that they have there is crazy. And I think what really surprised me the most was the variety of things that you can choose from at Marc Adams. So while I was there, we had this class going on. We had a turning class going on. We had a glass blowing class, I think, or something stained glass going on. We had a welding class going on. I think they do chocolate making classes there. I mean, it's wild. They have so many different things that you can choose from. So it's not just for woodworking. I would argue that 50% of the classes there have nothing to do with woodworking. But they have some really great classes. What else surprised me? I was also surprised by how often people from other classes would come around and just kind of see what's going on. And I'll talk a little bit about that. This is not something that I did because I was laser focused on making this. It gives you a really good insight as to what other classes are there. and what other classroom, or like how the other classrooms are set up, and also to let you know, hey, this might be something I would really be interested in. So if you go to a class 100%, take a little bit of time to walk around and look at everything else that they have to offer. And then one of the things that like nobody really told me before attending was the schedule that you could do there. If you wanted to stay, obviously I need to get home to my family every evening. And so you typically try to make it home by 7 before my kids go to bed. But if I wanted to stay there until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I totally could have. And I'm bringing that up because if you're watching this and you're somebody that's traveling here, I mean, you can spend as much time out there as you want. It's really like if I was here from out of state, I would have spent a lot more time there. I probably would have gotten there a little bit early, gone into the cafeteria, grabbed myself a cup of coffee, started taking a look at what I needed to do for the day, refine some stuff, sharpen my tools, whatever the case is, and then I would probably stay there after dinner and just continue to work before going back to the hotel and doing absolutely nothing, right? So if you're somebody that's thinking about going and you do take a class and you're traveling from out of town, that's a really big benefit that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Another thing that nobody told me beforehand that I did get told while I was there, that is that on the Tuesday night, I believe, it's either the Monday night or the Tuesday night, what they'll do is they'll order pizza for everybody and you can stay if you want to, and that's the dinner that they provide. They will provide a dinner. They just order pizza from like a local pizza place. Everybody comes in and it's no cost. You'll eat and then they'll take you into one of the rooms and all of the instructors that are there will all have like 15 minutes to present who they are and show a bunch of examples of the work that they've done. And I found that to be very enjoyable. And it's really incredible, the people that they have. Like this one guy was doing stained glass and he had this crazy job. And he was sharing the experience on that job and what the finished result was. And it was one of the most mind-blowing things I think I'd ever seen. And so that was really, really cool. I highly recommend if you're going to go to definitely carve the time out to go to that. Now, there's two other things that I guess kind of surprised me, but it's something that nobody really told me. So when you sign up for a class, you'll end up getting an email, and if you need to bring your materials, it'll have a cut list. And so mine had a cut list with the thicknesses, the lengths, the widths, all of it. Well, I took a whole bunch of time, like an entire day prior to getting all of that material ready. And then a couple days prior to that, like I jointed and planed and stickered everything and let it, acclimate to the shop. And then I took it down to final size. I did everything exactly the way it was supposed to do. And then you go there and 50% of the people did that. The other 50% actually brought their material. So you could have actually milled it all there. And that was like one of the things like on day one where I don't know if it's a benefit to take your material already pre-milled or just to mill it at the facility. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I had this idea for my door where I had an 8/4 piece of walnut and I wanted to resaw it so it was book matched, and then I cut my staves for the Cooper door out of that, and my layout would have been a book matched panel of riffs on walnut. Now, then when it came time to actually do the project, the staves, which I had cut to the size that it said in the instructions, got trimmed down. Everything was oversized, right? So I still had to cut everything down there. For the most part, everything was oversized. Some stuff was dead on already. But had I known that, I wouldn't have done what I did because now I lost the ability to perfectly center the book match. So I had to go with a slightly different approach, which it still turned out really, really nice. But the center stave is not the original center stave that I would have wanted because we only used 5 based on the size. Had I known that, I would have done it to where I was able to cut 2 staves from each side out of it and just made them maybe a little bit wider. But again, that's another thing, like you can't make your own sizes because the table saw and everything is set up for a particular size, so everybody's is exactly the same, and none of that was more important than for the door. So like the door was the one thing that you can't really do on your own there, right? Like it was like, they're going to be this size, everybody's cutting them exactly the same because we all need them to be exactly perfect. I'm very happy with how it turned out, but I don't know if milling all of your material based on the class that you're doing is the best idea, but I was also happy that I didn't have to waste the time while I was there doing it. The other thing that nobody told me is that you could take enough material for 2 of the exact same thing if you want. And I would 100% recommend that for something small like this, because there will be times where you don't have anything to do and you want to work ahead. So if you were able to do the same thing on 2, then why not do it? Like, why not do it while you're there? I could have absolutely got 2 cases done while I was there with not much additional effort. And there was a few people that did that, and I thought that was really cool. Had I known that going into it, I probably would have taken more material so I could have made more than 1. Number 7, who should attend? I would say like anybody, absolutely anybody. If you're somebody new to woodworking, if they have classes at different tiers, I can't say enough good things about my experience there. If you're a very seasoned woodworker, 100% attend. And for anybody to think like, I know way too much to get anything valuable from a place like that, then that's just arrogance. Anybody could learn something. The things that I learned, I never planned on learning. The things that I learned from just watching how other people did things, watching the tools that other people brought, which is another thing I didn't even talk about. I'll try to remember to talk about that. Anybody can learn something from there. I don't care how good of a woodworker you are, you could see something that could help you, or see a technique that you've maybe never tried before, or make new friends. I mean, there's just so many positives to it. So it's good for beginners, DIYers, hobbyists, business owners, furniture makers, whatever the case is. And again, they don't just do woodworking. They have so many other things there. It's a wonderful experience for anybody. That is my opinion. Number 8, a big one. Was it worth the investment? 100% yes. I have zero regret for spending the money. The class that I took was $1,050. I probably spent another $500 buying tools that I probably didn't need to buy, but that's just who I am. Mostly hand tools that I didn't have that were on the list of nice things to have. I spent a bunch of money on that kind of stuff prior to going. But yes, totally worth the investment. I mean, they feed you every day. The facility is amazing. The people are amazing. The ice cream machine. I didn't even talk about the ice cream machine, right? They have an ice cream soft serve machine. And I had a lot of soft serve ice cream while I was there. That alone almost was worth it. Not really. Like, I wouldn't pay $1,000 just to go eat soft serve for 5 days, but I don't know, I might. But it was incredible. It was just a great experience. It's totally worth the money. It's totally worth the money and the knowledge that I gained. Like, I have multiple new skills that I had not done before, like cutting the dovetails on the side, right? Like, this is a dovetailed box. And it was like a hybrid, like machine and hand tool work. So it was like another way of doing things. You could have done it completely by hand if you wanted to. There's so many different ways to do it. The Cooper door, I mean, the whole process and how to figure out the radius and how to smooth everything out, the most enjoyable thing. Just learning this method, I think, was worth the money. Another thing that I think made it totally worth it is like listening to the instructor, and with Eric in particular, like he's so good with design and like why he thinks about things the way that he does and how he wants to draw the customer, the client, or the person looking at the piece's eye, and the different little aspects that you can do on a project that help that. Like, that alone I felt like was worth it. Making some new friends, the interactions that I had with other people in the class, that I think was worth it. Yes, I had to bring all my own material. Yes, it cost me, $1,500 in the end with the class and all of that, but it was totally worth it. Like, totally worth it. And I am way more excited about woodworking now. I have new skills that I didn't have before. I have new connections that I didn't have before. So yes, it was totally worth it. Now, will I do it again? 100% yes. And that'll take me to the next part that I want to talk a little bit about, and that's getting into the courses. So the way that Marc Adams works is once you become an alumni, you get early access before the rest of the world to the classes that come out. From what I am told, I will be in this situation next year. That email will go out. You'll get a list of all the classes. It'll say on this date at this time we are taking people for the classes. You better already have your classes picked out, especially if it's a big name instructor. And you better be waiting behind your computer to hit send on that email at that time, because that's how they fill the classes. So an example of that would be if Eric Curtis is teaching there again next year, which I'm sure he will be, and I'm sure I will be taking that class, I will sit down behind the computer at 8:50 the morning that we're allowed to send the emails, and I'll be like, I want to enroll in this class, boom, and as soon as 9 o'clock hits, I'm sending that email or whatever the time is, and it just goes in the order that the emails come in, basically. And once those classes are filled, they're filled, and by the time it's opened up to the rest of the world, a lot of classes are already full. So a good, solid way of getting in to the classes would be like, a lot of people have told me this. They're like, why don't you just try to get into a weekend class for 2 days? You're now an alumni, and then next year you'll be able to have kind of first dibs at whatever classes you want to go to. So this class in particular, when I actually signed up, I was on a wait list. And it wasn't until like 3 months later where I got an email saying, we have an available slot. Are you still interested in doing this? And I said, absolutely, 100%. I paid in full right then. So that is a little bit of a downside, but my recommendation would be take a class, and then that won't be a huge problem moving forward. So will I take another class? 100% yes. My goal next year would be to take at least 2, preferably 3. And for me, like, this is continuing education, right? This is an expense that I can put under my business of Bent's Woodworking, because I am going and learning how to create better content, right? How to improve my skills in order to be able to do better videos for you guys, right? The audience. And I'm 100% going to do more classes. So if you're watching this video, I hope to see you in one of those classes. And if this video made you do that class, please come let me know. Because I really do not think that you would regret it. And before anybody, comments down below, this is way too late in the video to be saying this. They have no idea I'm doing this video, like none whatsoever. So I have zero ties to Marc Adams. I have zero ties to the School of Woodworking. I am simply doing this video because I want to share my experience, because it was a very good one, and I think a lot of people could benefit from it. So my final thoughts, I've pretty much said everything that I need to say. Will I go back? Yes. Did I like the class? Yes. Do I think the school is worth the money? Yes. Would I recommend anybody going and taking a course there? Absolutely. It was phenomenal. I cannot wait to do another one. I'd love to go to another one this year. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot that I'm super interested in. And what I will say is, if you're going to invest the money, make sure it's something that you're actually interested in doing. Otherwise, you may not enjoy the experience quite as much. Great experience, great time, 100% recommend. I cannot wait for the next class. Thanks.